everything is breaking, clients are leaving, payroll's due in 2 days. What are you going to do about it? And it's like, I'd say get ready to say no a lot, because you have to say no to a lot of things, whether it's people, and a lot of it comes down to just gaining focus on the things that you really want to work on.
Nobody's going to tell you about the late nights, the loneliness, the friendships that cease to exist, missing the birthdays and the parties and the night out. Nobody's going to tell you about the transformation you have to have as a person to be able to handle that. There's nothing in the world that prepares you for that. Welcome back to the Revenue Haven podcast. Today, I have Nikita joining me, who runs an email agency called ASPEKT. We are just going to chat a little bit about kind of state of the union in regards to what's going on in the agency space, maybe get a little deep, maybe tell some jokes, and go from there. Cool.
Yeah.
So give a little intro on yourself. Tell us a little bit about ASPEKT.
Yeah. So my name is Nikita. I'm the CEO of ASPEKT, and we do email and SMS for e-commerce brands. Now, ASPEKT initially started off as a full service agency back in 2020, handling Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok, social, and a whole other laundry list of things, including email. And then around 2021, we pivoted into just doing email, and purely came down from the success of that work and just having really, really good design. And it was just like a no-brainer, because we were going through so much burnout as a company. Like, sure. I was going through burnout trying to manage the new iOS update that came out at that point, as well as all the other clients doing the sales. So we just pivoted into email because it just made sense, and to just niche down.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg threw a giant wrench in that, huh?
Yeah, you can tell that again. Yeah.
So I think a lot of entrepreneurs who watch this are kind of going through something similar. Mm-hmm. What was the thought process of we offer everything to we offer one thing? Was it scary? How did you guys work through that? Did you feel like you were going to lose revenue? Like, talk to us about that.
Well, I definitely knew I was going to lose revenue, because at that time we had a third of our revenue coming in from one client, and that was all just Facebook ad management. So like we needed to take that Band-Aid off at some point. But the thought process came down to like three main I guess data points, which is number one, client retention. Email had the highest client retention. Even if clients didn't want to do Facebook ads or Google ads, they still stuck with us with email. Case studies and results. Every client that came on for email, we knocked it out of the park for. It was like a 99% success rate. Facebook ads, 60% success rate. So pretty much if 10 clients came on board, 6 of them would do well, 40% wouldn't. So it was hard for me to sell on a weekly basis and just be like, yeah, we can definitely get you those results, when on the back end earlier that morning, I'd have a call of like a client just chewing me out for not getting them the results I promised. So that was a bit tough. And then the third thing was just, we had great designers already in, like, as a part of the team. So it was a natural transition to where I could lay off the media buyers that were already on contract on like a client account basis. Sure. And it wouldn't impact the team as much because they're already contractors rather than full time. So I can just transition those designers to be, instead of doing ad creative, they can be working on the email side.
If you're a business owner and you measure day over day cash, stop doing that. I think that it's cool for you to just have a good pulse, have a longer time horizon for people who are working on the agency space, because you could be up 200% over the course of 30 days. And if you have a down day, don't ping me. Okay. But when making that transition, I know that we went through this at Revenue Haven, where we started with anybody who needs sales help.
Yeah.
And it didn't really matter size a whole lot. Luckily, we're pretty good at what we do. So we could work from, I'll say, the bottom up in regards to revenue range. But one of the things that we noticed over the course of 6 to maybe 8 months, which probably should have picked up sooner, if I'm just going to be frank, was the offer itself really was a huge needle mover in regards to the success of the business and the success of sales.
The offer that you were running for Revenue Haven?
No, the offer that we were building the sales team around.
Oh, okay.
So the offers that were true, I'll drop a Hermoziism, right? True no-brainer offers, crushed. And like scaling them was more of a systems problem than a talent problem. and the offers that were a little mediocre, kind of watered down, or didn't solve a specific problem.
Like vague offers?
Yeah, or just maybe red ocean offers or offers that had really low trust in the industry or those kinds of things did not scale very well, regardless of the talent that we put into that offer. How do you guys vet that on the e-com side? Or do you?
We don't necessarily vet the offer. We more vet the actual like product line.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Tomato, potato. Yeah.
Yeah, true. When it came down to like we actually had to learn when we niched down into email specific of like, okay, which offers are really, really good for email, which offers maybe you're not going to see the same exact expected results. So like the results we shoot for is 25 to 30% of revenue coming in from email. 90% of the brands can like actually hit that benchmark. The brands that tend to struggle are the ones that have different fulfillment backend setup. And it always goes back to like this one client that we had on last year. It was a cold plunge tub client. They were selling these plunge tubs for like 5, 10, 15 grand. And that offer didn't really work well with email. Like it helped with education, but then last click attribution would take that purchase, whether they came from like a Facebook ad, from retargeting or Instagram, and like email wouldn't really capture that purchase. So it was really hard to attribute sales. And at the same time, all of our call to actions on the email side were for the people to call their office, and then the office would get the attributed sale.
Sure.
So that was the one client where we struggled continuously to like scale up, and like we did everything right, but at the end of the day, like we had little to no attributed sales. And it's like, well, if we sold like at least one plunge tub, like it would pay for our services, and we had a hard time doing that even.
Yeah.
So we vet for the average order value, and we try to keep that below 1,000, maybe 2,000 if they're selling some sort of niche product, because at that point, like we know email could help, but at the same time, it might be a lot harder to keep that client on purely because of the expectations of the results that come in. I can't promise the same exact results for that client.
Sure.
Is that something like you had to deal with when you were working on like restructuring the offers, or like more niching down on the offers that you're taking on?
Yeah, weirdly enough, it did have to also do with price, offer price. Industry standard, you've probably heard this before, 25 to 30% close rate.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the way that they come in does dictate that as well. If they're coming in, ad, VSL, big organic following, achieving that 25 to 30% is relatively easy versus no following, no ads, cold email to book a call. They don't have that same level of indoctrination into the process. So although I do think that 25 to 30% close rate on cold is still achievable, it either requires an exorbitant talent to do that, or the sales cycle is 45 days or something, which is hard to, I don't want to say measure, because you can do that, but calls booked in to closed calls for that month are off by a lot, because the people who would close, let's say in October, maybe got their first call in August.
So the sales cycle is just longer.
Yeah. And like if we look at, okay, all the calls that got booked in August, how many of them closed over time? I think that you could hit that 25 to 30. But I think that doing like month over month cash cycling is very hard. But then the price point. So $50,000 mastermind, depending on organic presence and those kinds of things, would typically have a longer sales cycle than like a $2K bump and run kind of an offer.
It's a bigger decision to make for 50 grand for a mastermind that you think the network's going to work out versus like, hey, we're going to fix A1 or ABC or XYZ for $2 grand a month. Yeah,
which is interesting because the mastermind client is way more fun to talk to.
Yeah.
But also there's like logistical stuff. Most people don't have 50,000 of available credit to just be like, oh yeah, here's my whatever, right? So they gotta like move money around, or we have to send like ACH stuff or wire instructions or those kinds of things. It just creates some like logistical barriers.
Different kinds of objections.
Yeah, and it's it's still possible for sure to one call close. Like I'm not negating that by any means, but you just run into different barriers than like I need to think about it,
Right.
or like that kind of stuff.
It's like I got to talk to my accountant, or
Yeah.
I got to see if we're at this specific place in Italy during the mastermind or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So on the topic of masterminds, COVID did an excellent job of just fucking everybody socially. Like people lost the skill set of being able to talk to each other. And, I think that by and large, most of the people that are out there are kind of starving for community a little bit.
Absolutely.
A lot of us work from home, which has major upsides, but we don't see people, What are your thoughts on like how masterminds are going to progress over the next 5 to 10 years, especially with AI coming out and things like that?
I think, weird analogy, I think run clubs are like the best like indicator of that, because like you see all these people like, I mean, running fucking sucks. Like
running's the worst. Yeah,
it's the worst. So like if you have people that hate running, well, maybe like not the ideal group, but like people that are like indifferent to running, and they're like, they see a run club in the community, like yeah, sure, I'll do a run club on a Sunday and join. And like seeing that is it's almost a nice representation of what community building is going to be based around. Like it's always been about hobbies, but like it's going to be more marketed as a lifestyle trend. So I think masterminds are going to grow in that sense, where like getting together with the people and the network, it's a harder sell, I think. You could probably like say otherwise, but I think for me, it's a harder sell to like, okay, am I sure like this group is going to be the right fit for me? Am I sure? Am I going to is it going to be an echo chamber, or am I going to meet a diversity of people? So I think one thing that I look for, if I see like a mastermind or I get a cold email or I see some marketing material around it, it's like, am I sure this is going to be the right room for me? And like my biggest signal is just seeing what other people have experienced, whether they've been through that mastermind or they've worked with someone in there, and seeing that first person account rather than just seeing what the marketing material says. So I think in the future, it's going to grow a lot more, but it's going to be more word of mouth based rather than like flashy Instagram ads.
I mean, a lot of people, let's call it pre-2022, would join masterminds and coaching programs and things like that to buy the curve, buy the learning curve, right? And not necessarily have to make the same mistakes that other people did. And you can buy experience and mistakes from others, right?
Yeah.
But with AI's continual development and the access to information that we have now, I think that the shift, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, I think the shift on masterminds is not going to be about information anymore. Or maybe not publicly available. Maybe it's like the secret sauce, that are held on private servers or whatever.
Will we get the Epstein list in a mastermind?
The Epstein list in a mastermind, maybe, that's the private, like elite, pinky up, platinum, black mastermind, or whatever. Yeah, that's the island mastermind. But I think it's going to actually move to being community based.
Yeah.
And like, are there relationships that you can buy into rather than information that you can buy into? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we already see that happening right now, like with just agency events, like getting access to people like Eddie Malouf. Yeah. Like he's a busy guy. Like, for a fact that you can see him during like the weekend of agency founders or the weekend of when he's presenting at like a different conference or a show. So I think that already exists to an extent, but it's only going to get more transactional over time of like, okay, I want to see these people in a room together to get the most amount of like alpha I can from like these industry leaders, or like, how are they moving? Maybe not be the most applicable thing to me right now in the current situation, but at least I can understand where their head's at, or like, what are they currently thinking of, or like, what are the current trends they're looking at? Like, we were at Agency Founders earlier in the year with like Ashton talking about how AI is going to destabilize everything. Huge mind. Like, I didn't even think about AI like that, where agencies are going to become more data hoarders rather than traditional agencies. And they're more like, the AI is going to be pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, versus you being the strategic person to give them the right amount of data to make the right decisions on the client account. So I think things like that are only going to get more and more exclusive. So unfortunately, I think the event space is going to be more staggered, but I think at the same time, it's going to be more personalized to exactly where you're at in your situation.
Do you think that as they continue to stagger, create hierarchy, status hierarchies, I'll say maybe, that like people will go just for the status of saying I've been at this event? Like, do you think they'll pay 20 grand for the t-shirt kind of a thing?
Well, I mean, you kind of had that with like Grant Cardone and 10X and people doing like this for the photo. So I mean, there's definitely like some status plays to go into it, or I mean, there kind of is with like TED Talks. It's like, oh, I did like a TED Talk, or I was at a TED Talk.
I mean, like our industry is the most status driven.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it'll just exacerbate that?
There has to be enough of a pull.
Okay.
So like, I think Ty Lopez would probably be a good example of like, you have to have that kind of stature to be like, oh, was that like a blah, blah, blah event? Or it has to have that sort of marketing pull to where like, not only are the people in the business circle getting it, but also like normal people are getting it. It's almost like saying like, I was on Shark Tank. Everyone can understand what you meant by that.
Sure.
So having some sort of brand pull like that would be the thing to where like, oh, I'm at this event, even though it has nothing to do with my industry or niche. So I think kind of like you went to the acquisition event this weekend or this week. Like, I think that may have that similar pull to where like Alex is now almost a celebrity, even in the normal space. Like, I have people that are like normal friends asking me like, hey, have you heard of this Alex Hermozi guy? And it's like, I kind of known about him for years now. So, but like normal people are starting to see his content. And I think his event is the one that's going to like maybe spearhead that status in a weird way. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm going to keep the workshop notebook, just in case like it does turn into something like that. No, I got a ton out of it for sure. I mean, it is an A+ event, an A+ team. Like, it's interesting having gone to so many events, hosting our own event.
Right.
That's what good looks like. Like, their team is what good looks like, which is really, really interesting. But on the topic of Alex Hermozi, he might be, unless you can think of somebody else, might be the most jacked entrepreneur at least in our space.
Jacked, yeah. I was thinking of like Gary Brecka as like another like talking head type, but he's not really an internet marketer. He's a health guy.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's like, he owns a PE technically. Hermozi does, right? Acquisition.com is like a private equity firm. Essentially, it does roll-ups and stuff. I saw him in person, and I was like, holy shit.
Wider than the camera shows.
Dude's a door frame. Yeah, he's got to use probably a wide-angle lens when he films Talking Head.
Jesus.
Like, it was crazy, but good for him, But, like, obviously, you and I have started to get more into the fitness space, at least for me. I know you've been more consistent on it longer than I have. How has that carried over, if it has, into the business world? Because I've noticed a lot of people who are typically in shape are better at running a business.
I think it just comes down to like the amount of care you have for the things that you care about, or like, or I guess the amount of intent that you have for the things that you care about. Like, the best way I could put it is like, I can do the best at any job I can. And that's just like the how you do one thing, how you do everything. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall under that category of like, okay, I'm trying to be a good performer in my business. Okay, how can I be a good performer if my diet's shit? How can I be a good performer if like I'm feeling energy slumps at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon? So it kind of ties back to business goals. At least that's how it worked for me. Like, in order for me to be sharp, have full energy throughout the day, I need to work out and I need to like exert force with my body. Otherwise, it's just not gonna otherwise I'm just gonna be sedentary.
Yeah.
So I think entrepreneurs just have that drive in them to not only have not only doing the best that they can for their business, but also doing the best that they can around everything else that they do in their life. Is that like something that you can, I guess, like relate to when you're performing in your business?
Yeah, I mean, overall performance for me has gone up drastically. Even just like brain fog and, like I haven't vaped in 5-6 weeks now, and like my oxygen levels and things like that are way higher.
Nice.
But the thing that I notice, working out is like doing the boring stuff.
Yeah.
And it like shows a level of discipline on things that don't have an ROI, like a direct ROI. And for people who I notice who are in incredibly good shape, like I'm not there yet, hopefully here in the next, few months to a year. I just immediately associate them with like being able to be disciplined. You know?
It's like a nice filter,
Yeah.
like a physical like filter of like, okay, cool, they're on their shit.
Yeah.
But I agree with you on the boring stuff, but I think seeing you eat your diet plan is literally doing the boring stuff. Like the gym is fun. Like it's fun. Obviously, if like you and I are working out, it's fun. We're talking shit, but like you depressingly eat your cream of rice is the boring work that
It's the worst. It's the worst. Yeah. Shout out Daniel. Love you, brother. But the diet is rough. But the diet is the hardest part,
Yeah.
and like when you think about any business, there's things that like you enjoy doing.
Yep.
And then there's stuff that is the boring work.
The IRS.
The IRS. And most of it either keeps you out of jail or keeps the business moving forward,
Yeah.
and like the ability to demonstrate that you can do the boring work. There is a physical filter that exists.
Right.
Where you can see that. Not don't get me wrong, like are there people who have great genetics and things like that? Sure. But you can see it. Like they almost have like a different presence, if that makes sense.
A wider presence.
Wider presence, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, they carry themselves, they have more confidence, they are more comfortable in their skin,
Attentive,
yeah. For sure. It's probably all the nootropics and nicotine that they're on. I don't know anything
Definitely.
about that. Yeah, but yeah, it's been really interesting, man. Since we have been going outside of like the energy and things like that, have you noticed any carryover into other aspects of your life?
I think more so management in time, since your schedule is completely different, my schedule is completely different, and we still find a time to make it work. I figured out like, okay, I don't have to go to the gym at the same time every day. It was like a mental blocker for me of like, oh fuck, it's like 4:30. I was supposed to go at 4. Like I can't go to the gym anymore. So being able to, I guess, be flexible, but at the same time realize like, okay, I don't, even if it's not at the same schedule, like I can still do the necessary work that I have to do in order to either after the gym or before the gym to make it to that time. So, yeah, outside of like the health, the focus, the discipline side of things, and just like the time management, there's probably more benefits. Those are like probably the first few that I can think of immediately.
On the mentality side, like I feel like when you just do more hard stuff gets easier.
Well, it's like brain science at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I think there was like a podcast with David Goggins and Andrew Huberman. There's like an actual like physical brain chemistry change of like if there's something you really don't want to do, but you still end up pushing through and doing it, like that muscle builds. But at the same time as like a muscle builds, it also atrophies if you get lazy and complacent.
Sure.
So the discipline side of things, whether it's on the gym, the business, the health, the seeing time, like making time with friends and family, all that does carry over into like the discipline part of your brain and makes you be like, oh, like 100 cold calls today? Sure, let's do it. Or like anything that involves like extra effort. Like I noticed myself doing things that were hard before, like being like, oh, that's fine. Like I'll just do it.
On the mental side though, you've been an entrepreneur for a while.
Probably like 6 years full time now. I had like a job on and off beforehand, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst. But on the mental side, like jumping into entrepreneurship to how you operate mentally now, obviously you've got SOPs and team and revenue and all of those kinds of things, but mentally, what has been the biggest shift from I'm going to do this entrepreneur thing to now?
I think there's a lot more thought, maybe at my own detriment, to the decisions I make in the business. I'm sure you feel the same way with having like a team that you have to support and, have to make payroll and support families that are part of your own family. There is a lot more thought that I have to put into the decisions I make because it's not just me. It's not just like me sitting down, taking sales calls, managing Facebook ads, making the creatives. Like I have to, like the decisions that I make will not only take longer to like execute because of the team that I have, but also being like more empathetic towards other people's situations and what they're going through. Like, real example, like my team in the Philippines this morning had a
Earthquake.
like 7.2 magnitude
Yeah,
earthquake, and luckily everyone's safe. Like, we're
okay,
good, but like that's just another thing to think about of like, what if something didn't go well? Okay, I don't have like, I have to like now make decisions around the team and make sure like everyone's fine, or support them in some sort of way, which I've had to do before. So it makes me be more empathetic, makes me think further out on the decision side, and makes me take a step back from like, oh, I need to make this money, I need to make this money. It's like, okay, what is the company, like, what are the company's best interests, and what is these people's best interests, to make sure that like everyone's taken care of without being selfish.
The best representation I've seen of exactly what you're talking about is the difference in a ripple for a glass of water in a pool. Glass of water comes in, bloop, and then it settles really fast.
Right.
Because of like surface tension and speed, all that stuff, right? But if you ripple something into a pool, it ripples. The ripples reach way further,
and it reverbs.
And it takes a long time for the water to settle.
Yeah.
Which, body of water equates to team and decisions and things like that. So the bigger team you have, the larger that ripple is, and the longer it takes for those decisions to settle. Which is really, I mean, it's really just kind of like I think it's an interesting visualization to see.
I never thought of it like that. Yeah.
Because it just takes longer,
Have you seen decisions like made by you ripple the team like that before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Changing our markets,
right?
Changing like our qualification tiers, immediate ripple effects through, going from agency to a high ticket to obviously, like right now, I think you and I have chatted about it, looking at more of like the PE side.
Right.
Those are going to have massive effects on the team, and like continuing to build trust that you're the right captain for the ship.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, especially there's this great book written by Annie Duke, which you read.
Yeah, Thinking of
Bets. The way that Annie defines a bet is making decisions with incomplete information.
Yeah.
Which is essentially every decision you ever make, right? But it's like going from a $5 blackjack hand to every single hand that you play is hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
How do you like mentally handle that right now?
Actually, after reading that book, I now always have to go back to like the term resulting and making sure I'm not making that same exact mistake. I think a lot of the decision making comes in on like what I'm spending my time on to make sure like I'm serving the team best. Recently, I had to go through like a different decision making framework when we were hiring our new designer on board. Shout out to Diana. She's the newest on the team, going through the training.
Hell yeah,
Diana. But I had to make sure like I was positive she was the right fit, but I had to go through the decision, like take a step back and go through the decision-making process, be like, all right, went through the references, went through the portfolio, asked all the important questions. Her design tests look good. Like, this is look good. Personality's a fit. Beforehand, it was like off of vibes of like, all right, cool. This person's good. They showed me their Figma. We're good to go. You're on board. You're starting Monday. We need clients to, we need you to handle client accounts. So now it's a lot more methodical, I think, but for the right reasons, because we want to filter out to have the best like team members on board handling clients and eventually progressing to be CSMs and project managers and client communicators. So a lot of it is just stepping back and just making sure that I'm not making the same mistakes from previously. Obviously you want to do that, but
sure,
just not looking at the results, but making sure that you're looking at the decision framework rather than the results.
Yeah, focusing on process, not
exactly.
outcome. Yeah, for sure. And the bigger you get, those hires become more and more and more expensive.
Yeah.
On mistakes. I mean, they become more expensive because you need better talent, right? But the bad hires will cost you a lot of money as you continue to grow, especially if they are, A level, B level leadership. And if you're wanting to progress somebody into client facing, that's a big deal, right? It's almost like slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Is there like a way that you've figured out, like on the decision making side, that is like a tried and true process?
100% no.
Oh.
The only reason why I would feel really uncomfortable saying 100% is because there's like a people element, right?
You can't really control the people element.
You can't. And some people are very good at interviewing, and then when the rubber meets the road, they are not good.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's things that happen, extenuating circumstances in people's lives, and they bring those things into work, and then their work suffers and all that kind of stuff. So until I get the crystal ball figured out on being able to look into the future, you'll never have it be 100%, but you can mitigate a lot of it by creating friction in the interview process, right? And the people who push through that friction are typically more bought in, they elect to be there, and more often than not, they're high performers. But I did hear an interesting statistic this week.
What you got?
Around A players. 2025 statistic. You want to take a guess at how long A players right now are on the job market?
3 weeks.
8 days.
8 days.
So interview process, having it be, I'm a big fan of 3 steps. How can you compress that?
Every other day seems like.
You would have to, right? And the people who are willing to go through that compression typically have a pain or a goal that is strong enough to move them through that. But yeah, it's 8 days right now, which I thought was very interesting. Now, that's all kinds of industries too. Like, obviously, you know.
That one was a tough one because we had, like, she was, like, Diana, she was pushing through the interview process of, like, hey, like trying to book in as soon as possible for the next meeting. And it's like, well, we have, like, 10 other people we have to get through and make sure everyone gets a fair shot. That's the tough part about hiring, because, like, when you find someone good immediately, you obviously still have to go through the same exact process with everyone. But
just like a sales call.
And going through that process, it's like, okay, I have to still be fair to everyone. I can't just hire this person on when, like, half the other candidates are still on, like, interview number 2. And so, like, have you found, like, a way to balance that out, whether it's, like, on the sales side or on the hiring side?
I view each person's timeline as being agnostic. So if somebody can move through all 3 interviews in 3 days, great. Then we can say, hey, I have the rest of these to finish out. And, you know, you can give people contingent offers or those kinds of things as well. But it also shows me a lot if somebody is like, can you talk tomorrow? You know, like those kinds of things, which, you know, for an entity just like yours and mine that moves at a very fast clip, I feel like that's also indicative of potential future outcomes and future behavior if, you know, they were to be extended an offer. So I don't view the hiring process timeline as like one thing. I view the timeline of each candidate as being agnostic, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And at that point, you're very transparent with your candidates. So it's like, okay, like, if you can move this fast, great. If not, like, we still got these interviews to go through. So we won't. So, like, then you won't tell them the answer, or, like, you'll be like, hey, this is contingent on if everyone else messes up.
Yeah, and if you are on, you know, I don't ever hire the first person you talk to, right? Unless they end up being the best, right? But you have to interview, you know, 10, 15, 20 people, whatever. But if, let's say you're like, I'm going to interview 20 people, and somebody makes it through all 3 interviews before you hit the 15, and like they're the GOAT, that's more important than the other 5 interviews, right? So I just kind of view it as what's the highest leverage for me without necessarily sacrificing process.
Right.
I want to start asking this question more frequently. So you're going to be the first person that I ask it to. And then I want it to be kind of reoccurring for everybody that I talk to. I think being an entrepreneur from the outside is sexier than some of the days that you have on the inside.
Oh, brother.
Like, people are like, oh, he owns his own business, you know, whatever, right? If you were sitting with me and I was an 18-year-old Cory and I was saying, Nikita, I want to be an entrepreneur, what would the advice that you would give me be?
That is a tough one. I'd say get ready to say no a lot, because you have to say no to a lot of things, whether it's people or just events or maybe even things that you want to do in your life. You have to say no. And a lot of it comes down to just gaining focus on the things that you really want to work on. That's the one big thing I like, just reoccurring every year of like, I always have to keep saying no or cut things down in order to progress in the things that I want to progress in. So you have to get really comfortable with making decisions in that sense. It is a lot sexier on the outside, and to an extent there are days where like the highs are so high.
Sure.
But then you also have days where like everything is breaking, clients are leaving, payroll's due in 2 days. What are you going to do about it? And it's like, fuck. So all the problems that you have in your life are only going to get worse, but you will get better at handling them, which is great. And the problems are linear to the money that you make. So the bigger the problems that you solve, the more money you should be making.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Sure. Yeah. Or the volume of problems you solve.
That
right?
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's volume and complexity, right? Super complex doesn't have to be the volume. Curing cancer, one problem.
Pretty big problem.
Not huge volume after that, right? Or helping e-commerce companies with their email. Volume is the game, right? How many companies can you work with?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I would tell people to not do it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Most people, probably most people know.
Yeah, I would tell people to not do it as a filter. Because there's going to be people who are going to immediately fold. And they'll go, yeah, probably not. And there's going to be people who are kind of on the fence, right? And then me being like, don't do it. If that pushes them to the no side of the fence, great.
Yeah.
You were not meant to do this anyway. But if I tell somebody, don't do it, and then they fight me on it, maybe.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you got the edge on you. Yeah.
Because nobody is going to tell you about the loneliness.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell you about the late nights. Nobody's going to tell you about the friendships that cease to exist. Nobody's going to tell you about missing the birthdays and the parties and the night out. Nobody's going to tell you about cortisol.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell you about the transformation you have to have as a person to be able to handle that. Nobody's going to tell you about being a professional student for the rest of your life. Nobody's going to tell you about having to work so hard as though everybody's trying to take it away from you every single day.
Man, are the good days so good?
They are. They are, for sure. But if you get into it, it becomes a drug habit.
Yeah. I think that's probably an accurate way to describe it. It's like you're just chasing the high of like the last, like you're trying to surpass the high that you had.
Yeah.
There was a good quote I read a couple of years back, and it's like entrepreneurship is just a personal development journey disguised to make money. And it's like, that's pretty freaking accurate. Like
super true.
If you look at me as like a 19-year-old that started their own like first Shopify store, like the fuck is this kid doing? But like over the years, like you mature and develop it. Like hopefully if you're learning and doing the whole thing,
right?
Yeah. Like you mature, you get better, your processes get better, the way you talk to people get better, the way you're on camera gets better. Like everything gets better as long as you put the effort into it. But you need to have that initial drive to like actually want to do it.
The grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it, right?
Exactly.
And like, man, people are just not good at that. They go through like uninformed optimism, informed pessimism, valley of despair, right? And then they switch in the valley of despair and they never actually push through that thing. And they call themselves entrepreneurs. You're a freelancer with 100 skills.
Yeah, they're not 7 streams of income. They're like 7 drops of income.
Man, I hate that 7 stream of income thing.
Yeah?
It drives me crazy.
Preach.
It's like millionaires have 7 streams of income, right, on average. That's a bunch of horse shit. Like, Hermozi talks about this, and I'm so happy that he did. I've had this thought for a long time, but Once you become a millionaire, then you have 7 streams of income. It's not the thing that gets you there.
Yeah.
You have one thing, one skill, one avatar, one channel, whatever, and that's like the thing that actually gets you to being a millionaire. And then you diversify risk, right? And you have real estate and stocks and passive income or whatever, right?
Well, that's also when it becomes tax advantageous to do that as well.
Sure, but I shouldn't say nobody, I'm sure there's somebody out there, exception to the rule, special snowflake, whatever, right? That got to being a millionaire by having 7 streams of income. The people who are billionaires, capital B, there's one. And it's the equity that they have in their business.
Yeah. That's
it, right? And sometimes business can be real estate portfolio, whatever, right? But it's an equity play,
Yeah.
They are not like, I'm going to go buy ATMs and then I'm going to be a high ticket closer on the side and then I'm going to walk dogs on the weekend and then I'm going to buy crypto. None of those people are like making $1 million a year, right? And obviously being a millionaire is more about net worth and income, but I think that is a massive fallacy that just kneecapped a generation of people.
Me included, bro. As you brought up all those various things that could be making money. I remember way back in like 2018, I was at like a house party and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes.
It's like, oh, cool. I'm like, yeah, I got multiple streams of income. I got crypto. I'm drop shipping. I have an agency. And it's like, I used to think that was like the hot shit. But then I'm also flexing to like other like 18-year-olds.
How much more money do you make now doing one thing?
Significantly more.
Yeah, for sure.
Significantly more. Yeah, way more.
Sometimes that's a rite of passage, I guess, for entrepreneurs. And sometimes it's the filter of like, which one of these do I actually enjoy doing? Or, test driving vehicles.
Right.
Right. Which I'm not against by any means, but like fail fast and often to like find the thing. And then when you do, go all in on the thing. You will become a millionaire or even grow to 7 and 8 figures worth of income doing that than all of the other stuff.
Yeah, it all just comes down to saying no to the better opportunities so that way you can have one great opportunity to get you there.
Yeah. Can I ask you some personal stuff now?
What do you got?
I think that there is also a fallacy that most people don't talk about, where they think that dating an entrepreneur is sexy. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man. You really have to be, I don't want to say built for it.
You do.
You do. The onboarding is crazy. If I can call it that, we're going to relate it back to business terms.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The handoff. The handoff.
Yeah.
It's difficult because it took probably Rachel picked it up really quickly. Thank God for that. But I don't know how I would date someone normal, if that makes any sense.
Nor do you want to.
No, yeah, it would be very difficult. It took Rachel a year to get used to exactly how I operate, but then it also took me a year to get more empathetic and kind of meet her in the middle.
Sure.
So I think there was a lot of misconception of I'm just gonna be his wife or his girlfriend that's gonna have her own business that loses $10K a month, but it's all right. I'm kidding, of course. But
kidding, not kidding. Yeah, no,
kidding, but not kidding. There's definitely a lot more to it because I think on the female side, you have to get used to not seeing your spouse as much. Luckily,
seasons maybe.
Or seasons, yeah. There's definitely going to be some seasons where you're not going to see them that as often because they're trying to provide for hopefully you guys and hope build your own empire or whatever you want to call it. So there's that. You have to get really good at being uncomfortable in certain situations because for me, there's certain things that I will push through because it's what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Whereas the other side of it, it's like, what are we doing? We're bothering this person. It's like, we're not bothering them. It's their job to do this specific thing.
Right.
So like there's going to be moments of uncomfortability. So I lucked out with the person that I'm with, but I know for a fact, like I've done the dating. I think being an entrepreneur and trying to find someone that you can have a conversation with on your first date and not blow your brains out is very difficult.
Preach.
I think that's probably the hardest part. And then once you do, having them also be able to stick with you through the mud is the next filter.
That mud is thick sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting balance because obviously there are things that the entrepreneur looks for, and there's things that the significant other looks for. Most of the time, and I'm not saying always, because there's definitely amazing relationships that I've seen from the outside that are not. They don't fall into the bracket of what I'm about to talk about. But it's typically somebody who is entrepreneur and high performer.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's entrepreneur. Sometimes it's entrepreneur. Sometimes it's entrepreneur, C-suite, director level, whatever, right? Those seem to match really well because it seems like the other person has significantly more empathy and understanding of each side of the coin.
Yeah.
Whereas, or it just has to be like stay-at-home wife or something, right? Or husband, right? I don't want to be gender discriminating, but it's stay-at-home significant other, right? Where you kind of divide and conquer responsibility of like, hey, I do income, you do homemaking,
right?
Kids, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But even in that scenario, there's tension around seeing each other and spending quality time and those kinds of things because I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day and I couldn't have said it any better than they did. They're an entrepreneur and they were dating and they'd been in a relationship with this person for a while. And I think that people forget that entrepreneurs still have to do the other stuff, right? So they still have to obviously spend time with their significant other. They got to take care of their health. They have to have social relationships and friendships and things like that. And if you work 9 to 5 or an 8-hour day or whatever, you have 8 hours outside of sleeping to like do that stuff, right? Whereas entrepreneurs sometimes will work 13 hours, 15 hours.
Yep.
And then we have, let's call it 3 hours to like do all that stuff, And it's not that we don't need to do it. It's we have less time to still do all of those things, which creates intentionality. What is funny for you guys, Nikita and I, outside of going to the gym, we do hang out. But I know he's an entrepreneur because when we hang out, he will send me a calendar invite, which is hilarious. But I appreciate it like probably more than I've ever communicated to you because it shows up on my calendar. I can plan around it, and those kinds of things. So if you are in the market and you are dating currently and you run across an entrepreneur, I'm going to say a real entrepreneur, not a wantrepreneur, like a real entrepreneur, you need to be ready for that.
Send them a calendar invite. They'll appreciate it.
Calendar invite for the dates with the address, everything like that. Yeah. But you have to be ready for the seasons, for the push seasons, for stabilization, for, probably a little bit more emotions.
I think that was a big one that I completely underestimated is like with emotion regulation is like a big thing as an entrepreneur. Like you obviously want to you don't want to show weakness to your team because like.
Sure. Totally good. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be the person that's like, all right, cool. Everything's burning. Like we still got this, holding it down. But on the back end, like after one of those days, it's like, I don't cry, but like, it's the same like pain of like, fuck.
You could cry. It's okay.
I don't cry. I don't cry. Just a thing. Having the emotional support of a significant other is like one thing that I never knew like I needed. If that makes any sense of like someone being like, hey, look, the world's not going to end. Like this is just the day. So having someone be like the rock that holds you down, I think is very beneficial. But at the same time, like on the other side of it, if you are looking to date an entrepreneur, like you have to be prepared to be very emotionally vulnerable with them in order to like at least help them get through the day.
Yeah, it's true. And the support system is very real.
Yeah.
And, you know, as entrepreneurs grow, especially if you catch somebody at the beginning or beginning stages, maybe, man, that becomes bigger swells.
Yeah.
You know, from 10K a month to 50K a month to 100K a month to $1 million a month. Like those swells are very, very different. Similar to the ripples we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
you know, and you go from, you know, garage banding a business that makes money to, you know, like maybe being in an office one day and having 100 employees, and the amount of emotional resilience that entrepreneur has to go through between those two stages is exorbitant. And there's nothing in the world that prepares you for that.
No, it's a very fly by the seat of your pants, figure it out as you go, build the plane as it falls type. I think one thing as the spouse of an entrepreneur, you would have to look out for is just the way you think about money.
Tell me more.
So when we first started dating, Rachel's like, I have $1,200 a month that I need to cover for rent. I'm like, oh, 1,200 is like, that's not bad. Or like, hey, I just dropped 15 grand on a program. It's like, what? How the fuck? You dropped 15 grand on this thing? It's like, yeah, it's on my Amex. Like, we're good.
Yeah.
Like the way that an entrepreneur thinks about money is completely different than
very different.
A normal person that's dating an entrepreneur. Cause it's like, oh yeah, why don't we just go out to eat? Or like, I'll just DoorDash. It's like DoorDash is like $50. You're getting a private taxi for your burrito. It's like, yeah, because I have to finish this client onboarding.
Yeah,
that's
convenience.
giving me $40,000 a month. So it's like,
yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah, it's the mental cash cycles of entrepreneurs is very different too, and their risk tolerance is typically higher than the average 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then entrepreneurs every once in a while will also spend money on stupid shit. And sometimes it is purely a mental health play where it's like, I just need to go do something for me because I've done something for everybody else every waking moment of this entire month.
How the Benz felt.
That's how the Benz felt. I mean, it's how my shoes felt.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. Because on the other side of that too, there's advantage and access that sometimes when people have never had that before, they go crazy on the other side, right? They're like, wow, I have $10,000 to spend every month, whether that be as a spouse or significant other or whatever. And then they do, you know.
Like, well, I did not expect you to max out the card this quickly.
It's an interesting take because I think everybody wants that until they're in it.
Grass is greener.
Grass is greener.
But I think dating an entrepreneur would probably unlock so many crazy things that you've never thought of in your life, which I think is a win. Given they're a good person, not a shitty person, obviously.
There's a lot of them in the entrepreneurial space too, which is tough.
Yeah, it's hard to find a good person. So, but at the same time, it's just hard to find good people in just the normal dating market.
Sure. So, their exposure to being good is different though.
Yeah.
Have you heard Jordan Peterson talk about being dangerous?
Tell me more.
I think he's controversial for sure, which I also think aids in his reach quite a bit, which I totally get. And there's things that I agree with and things that I don't. But he talked about this like idea of being dangerous. Somebody was interviewing him, I can't remember who it was, and said, you want everybody to be dangerous, but doesn't that mean that you want people to like inflict harm on others? And Jordan said, no, but you should be capable of it. Because having self-control without being dangerous is useless. Because
you're not controlling anything.
Right. It's an empty cage. You know, you open up the cage, there's nothing inside. It doesn't matter if the animal gets out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a true virtue when you have that ability and you choose not to do it. versus just not having it at all, which I think that a lot of people, when they're thinking about dating entrepreneurs or having relations with entrepreneurs and things like that, they either want it for the wrong reason, or they don't understand the things that are necessary in order to be an entrepreneur. And they want that person to be an entrepreneur without all of the things that it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that one's tough.
Yeah,
you can't really do that.
Yeah, like they want to be able to brag status or whatever, to be like, my husband's a business owner or my wife is a business owner. Well, yeah, but they don't want the late nights or the missed dates, or can't go on that trip or whatever.
Rescheduling the trips.
Yep. And that's the virtue. It's like you have to actually have the ability to do that in order to date an entrepreneur.
How do you spot that with like friends though? Because I think, being an entrepreneur, you mentioned like being lonely, which is true. Like as someone that has been through that, like it is lonely the loneliness doesn't come from the people. It comes from the relatability factor.
Yeah.
At least for me, where it's like, man, I can't relate to these people because they don't know what I'm going through. And not that everyone has to understand what I'm going through, but at least I can't fully be, it's almost like my censorship setting is at like 50% rather than like 0. So I can like fully be open with someone. Like, how do you weed that out with friends or business partners or anyone that you like talk with?
I think you keep the censorship at 0 and they weed themselves out.
Really?
Yeah, there are people who I was friends with through high school and everything like that I don't even talk to anymore. Yeah, I think that if you continue to present authentically, that in and of itself becomes the filter. And then the people who genuinely show up and ask intelligent questions or help you move through things, even things like following up. Like, hey, brother, I know that we talked 2 weeks ago about blah, blah, blah. Like, how'd it go? Like that kind of stuff, like genuine interest. Versus somebody who is like, well, that's a pinky up problem. Like,
right.
It's like, cool. See ya. Yeah, I think that, I don't think that you should censor yourself. And that's probably controversial. Because I let the authenticity be the filter.
Never thought of it like that.
And then it becomes easy. I mean, it's sore thumb stuff, Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so what I hurt this guy's feelings, it's like,
cool.
Doesn't really hang with me then.
Yeah. Which can be perceived as like brash or, potentially being non-empathetic or whatever, right?
Egotistical.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that those are all the wrong words for somebody saying, you don't think like I do, therefore I don't like you.
True.
Cool.
It's also the boundaries that we set up for ourselves. Like someone isn't bound to certain boundaries.
Yeah.
It's like,
or their boundaries are different.
True.
Right? My boundaries are pretty rigid, especially around my time.
Of course.
But other people are not. And they're like, hey, I'm free. Move your stuff so you can be free to hang out.
No.
Not a chance, dude.
I have like a 3 o'clock and a 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah, so no way. And they just don't necessarily understand or grasp that, or they make themselves more important than they should be. But yeah, I think remain authentic and let that be the filter. 'Cause you would rather do that and have 3 people who are in your corner all the time than censored, in the extreme version, turned all the way up to 100 and everybody likes you.
I guess I've been
nobody knows you
doing that.
Sure. I don't think there's intention behind it, but I think you can intentionally turn it down.
That's true. Yeah, which is what I usually do in the first interaction, but I think after this I'll probably just be at an 11 all the time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's people that don't like me. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Like, I don't like how he said that. It's like the truth.
Yeah. And sometimes people misassociate being mad at the truth versus being mad at you just because you're the conduit of it.
You're the messenger.
Yeah. Which is fine, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's people that hold grudges and they don't move as quickly, or, you know, you said this one thing, the wrong verb in this sentence, so I'm going to hate you for a decade. Great. Takes up no mental bandwidth for me.
It's that scene from Mad Men. It's like, you ruined my life. It's like, I don't think about you at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, for the non-marketing crowd, it's the Incredibles.
Yeah.
Right? Where this guy builds an island in a company just to kill Mr. Incredible, right? Just because he said no when he was like 16 or something, you know? But yeah, I mean, there's those people out there. But you have to protect that, like, with a burning hot intensity. And then you build tribe, you know?
Yeah. The people around you will support you because they support what you do.
Yeah,
so
for sure. And if you can remain authentic too, when I'm sure it's happened to you already. If it hasn't, it will. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's going to be at some point people like rumor milling stuff, and like the tribe is going to be the water to the fire. Right? They're going to be like, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know this person, right? And that's not a fire that you necessarily want to fight on your own. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to. But if you can remain authentic, the most that people can be mad at is the truth, or at least your truth.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's, I can't say it better than you. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out, man. I'm looking forward to doing the next couple here. I know that you will be a repeated guest since you live across the street from me.
True.
But thank you guys for coming. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. Nikita, finish out. Where can people find you?
The best place you can find me is on ASPEKT's website, aspectagency.com, ASPEKT agency.com. Also YouTube. Have weekly YouTube videos on all things email and SMS marketing. So check that out. It's just my name, Nikita Vakhrushev. And thanks for having me on, brother.
Awesome, brother. It's good to have you. See you.